Fantastic. She couldn't wait for the rumors to roll through Greenbelt, letting everybody know that she'd walked around town stinking like outside and looking like she'd been rolling around in filth. She knew she was too old to still get embarrassed about something as ridiculous as a small-town rumor mill. But fuck, the whispers were just gasoline on the garbage fire that her life had turned into. "You need some more water, baby?" Miss Candace may have been closer to a century than anyone else in town, but she still had a voice that could carry like nothing else. Years of being the lead and loudest soprano in the church choir would do that, she guessed. "No, ma'am," Mary called, pausing to make eye contact with the woman. "I'm almost done, actually, if you want to go ahead and get your box." Miss Candace's lips straightened, and she groaned low as she stood up out of her chair and disappeared behind the black screen door. Mary kept shoveling, moving faster the nearer she got to being finished with her task. She had dinner plans with her friends tonight, and the only thing getting her through this job was the promise of losing herself in the love of her best girls, and a giant pile of lemon pepper wings. Miss Candace had switched her house shoes for a pair of thick-soled clogs when she returned. Mary kept her back to her, but she could hear them clacking on the dirt. Mary paused when the other woman stopped next to her. She held her breath as Miss Candace turned her eyes to the hole, a little milky around the centers, but still alert. "That's 3 feet," Miss Candace said. Mary released a breath of relief. "You want me to put it down there for you?" They both looked down at the box Miss Candace was holding. A shoebox, wrapped in multiple layers of newspaper, taped shut around the edges, then secured with multiple thick rubber bands for good measure. "Yeah, all right." She handed the box to her, not fully allowing Mary to take it for a few seconds. "Make sure you get it all the way down in there, right at the bottom of the hole." Mary had to get down on her knees to reach. She handled the box gently, like it was the most precious thing she'd ever touched. Shit, it actually might have been. It was certainly the most expensive. "Hurry up and get it covered, will you?" Instead of walking away, Miss Candace stood right next to her as Mary shoveled dirt back into the hole. The older woman kept her eyes glued to the box, even after it disappeared beneath the soil. Mary's voice was breathless when she spoke. "You know, Miss Candace, there's a black-owned bank over in Beaufort. One of my best friends and her boyfriend bank with them. She says it's owned by a local family, and that they take real good care of the folks that bank there. Maybe," she paused, considering her next words. She knew she was overstepping, and that she might have had an easier time getting the CEO of an evil tech giant to give away his billions than she would convincing an older black woman to stop doing something she'd been doing for 60 years. When Miss Candace turned her milky eyes to her again, Mary had no choice but to look into them. They hadn't turned unkind, but they were more serious than she'd ever seen them. "I used to help my daddy do this when I was just a girl. Any money he got that didn't have to be spent on feeding and housing us was bundled up and shoved into a burlap sack and buried somewhere on our land. Daddy always said that money was dangerous, that it made you a target and turned you into something." She paused, turning her face to the side. "Something nasty. Daddy always wanted to keep his money close to the earth. Make sure he didn't give himself the chance to flash it around and let everybody know he had it. Whenever we got in a bind, needing something fixed on the house or faced a rough winter, he would get to digging. And when I left his house to go be with my husband, Lord rest his soul, Daddy made me dig up the money he'd put aside for me, told me to bury it in my backyard along with all my other money, and that if James ever did anything untoward, I'd have the means to slip away without him knowing." "That's real smart," Mary said quietly. "Your daddy seemed like a smart man." "Smartest man I ever knew," Miss Candace snorted. "Which ain't saying much, But if he knew enough not to trust nobody...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.